Hey everyone, the Magic Adventurer here, and today we're going to be talking more about the Haunted Mansion and the secretive elevator. Let's get into this. This is mainly going to focus on the Haunted Mansion over in Disneyland and not the one here in Walt Disney World for this video. What we do know, at least from my last video, is the original version of the Haunted Mansion opened on August 9th, 1969 at Disneyland in Anaheim, California. I'm not going to dive into the full history here again, but I will be focusing on the open secret that no one really seems to be talking about. This secret is in the stretching room. The stretching room is either the most annoying part of your Haunted Mansion experience, with everyone in the room copying word for word exactly what the ghost host is saying, or it is one of your most favorite parts of the whole ride. And please don't be the people who copy word for word what the ghost host is saying. Please, 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 please. This part is in literally every version of the Haunted Mansion except for Mystic Manor in Hong Kong. So everyone should at least know this beginning room. It's a large octagon room that is pretty dark and has 4 portraits up on the walls above you. Once everyone is in the room, that's when the doors close and all of a sudden there's no windows and no doors, as the ghost host kindly reminds you. As you look around, you start to notice that the portraits appear to be growing taller to reveal how each one of the people in the portrait meets their maker. At this point, the ghost host hits on the very reason for this video. He asks, is this haunted room actually stretching? And well, yeah, it is. Then there's actually a good reason for this, at least in Disneyland. The real question is, why is the room stretching? The stretching room is actually one of the most functional parts of the whole entire ride, and not just another pre-show like some of the other rides you would go on. The stretching rooms in Disneyland, yep, I did say rooms, there's actually 2 rooms in Disneyland, actually are one of the best things that the Imagineers have designed and created to really solve a problem. If you know anything about Disney and how they love their sightlines, basically meaning they love to control what the guests can see and believe, then you will know that the building for the Haunted Mansion is very small and there's no way that the whole ride fits inside of that tiny little building. Of course, you would be correct in this point, but right behind that building is where the train tracks go, so where is the ride? That answer is actually quite simple. It is in the show building on the other side of those tracks. But how do people get across the train tracks without really realizing it? This is where the functionality part of the stretching room comes into play. As you see here on Google Earth, you need to get from this building on the right here to the other side of the railroad tracks to go to the show building where the whole ride actually is. The easiest way to get from point A to point B would be simply take an elevator to go down below the tracks and walk into the show building. When you are in the stretching room, that floor is actually being lowered to be underneath those railroad tracks. When you walk into that room, you can actually notice there's a small gap in the floor just as you walk into the room. And this is really the only main indication that you could have picked up on to know that it is actually an elevator. Once inside, the floor will very slowly start to descend, but it is so slow that you can barely even notice it. It's maybe even just a slight tremor. Everything around you is actually moving with you, but the ceiling is actually standing completely still. There's so much Disney magic in this room that it's kind of difficult to really know what is going on here, but most people have come to the conclusion that the wooden walls, the gargoyles, and even the portraits are actually all descending down with you. Granted, the portraits are actually getting taller as well by being pulled by the still walls behind it. At the end, when you reach the very bottom of the stretching room, you've actually been lowered down by about 2 whole stories or around 18 feet into the ground in order to be low enough to go under that railroad. This is a lot more than most people even realize. This is what the Disney Imagineers were able to come up with in order to solve their problem with getting people under the railroads and into the show building, which is pretty amazing in of itself that they decided to not just take an easy route and make this such an iconic part of this ride. This part was so iconic that even though it is not even an elevator in other versions, such as the one in Disney World, they added it to these versions as well. Of course, in these other versions, it's actually the ceiling going up and not you going down. Well, that wraps up everything you really need to know in regards to the hidden elevator in the Haunted Mansion in Disneyland. This is just a little neat fact that you are now in the know about. Like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to keep up to date on all things Disney. I am the Magic Adventurer, and I'll see you next time.